Welcome back, folks. This is Spruce and Studs to another Warhammer 40K and JoyToy collaboration review. So in this one, we are going to be reuniting this lone ranger over here, which is the Black Templars Assault Intercessor, with his faithful steed. And today is the day that we get to unveil this faithful steed over here. So I'm really excited to get in this because we have not had that many mechanical units get released by any of the toy companies that are out there. We have got the Invictor Warsuit, as well as the regular Dreadnoughts, as well as the Redemptor Dreadnoughts that were both, actually all three of them, were released by JoyToy. And JoyToy has yet again surpassed all the other action figure companies by coming out with this Outrider over here. So let's get into this review. All right, folks, let's get down to business and unbox this Black Templar. Unboxing now. And here we go. Ooh, this Black Templar comes with a lot of accessories like you would expect from an Assault Intercessor. So let's take a look at the chainsword over here. All right, looking at the chainsword, I'm not going to nitpick the painting because we already know the painting from JoyToy really kind of sucks. So here we are looking at some bleed from the silver onto the red, and there's also silver onto the red for the handle part. But I would have to say, in all honesty, that I really like the look of this chainsword. It is actually straight and is actually fairly meticulously detailed. You do have this interesting brushing that's going on with the teeth over here as well as the silver parts. So let's put the chainsword down and then take a look at the bolt pistol. And the bolt pistol, as you can see over here, does have defects and issues to it. So you can see that silver onto the red over here, and then some red onto the silver as well. But overall, it looks just like a standard pistol. There are some nice details over here with the bullet casings. And then let's move on to the holstered version over here. But let's take a look at the highlights. And of course, the highlights aren't that great. And you can see how messy this highlight is over here. Doesn't really stay within the raised areas, but this is pretty much normal for a JoyToy offering. Let's take a look at the bolt rifle. And taking at the bolt rifle isn't actually too bad at first glance. So you do have some bleed where the silver is onto the bolt round casings. And then you have some light highlights on the edge of this very soft strap over here. But I will have to say, like, looking at this overall, this is way better than I would normally expect for a bolter. Wait, actually, on second thought, I'll have to retract that comment here. So if you're a painting fanatic, you will notice that there is a lot of bleed from the silver onto the red over here. And this is actually a lot messier than we would normally like on a bolt rifle. But aside from that, overall, this is generally pretty clean for a JoyToy bolt rifle. Moving on to the backpack, let's see what the backpack has to offer. Really not that much. And one of the disappointments that I will have to say is that just looking at this Black Templar, he looks very dull to me right now because there are no highlights. I really miss version 1 of the Space Marines, mainly because JoyToy actually did highlight all these different panel areas to make it pop. However, in the subsequent ones, they're not doing that. So anyways, looking at this backpack, it's just a standard looking backpack and it doesn't have too many issues, in my opinion. You get this nice weathered look on the silver parts, which gives it a nice character. Now let's take a look at the Marine himself, see what's going on. As I keep repeating myself over and over again, I kind of lament the lenses over here. I wish that JoyToy would actually put a undercoat of silver and a light coat of red over the lenses because it gives more depth and more character to it. But instead they just decided to paint this just a regular red, which looks a little bit dull in my opinion. And then looking at the helmet area and the pipes, you do have some areas in which the silver did not completely cover the black, and that goes the same over here. Then moving on to the pauldrons, this is a very interesting area. The pauldron also is kind of rough in my opinion too. So you got the white bleeding onto the black, and same thing over here, white to black. But I will have to say, JoyToy does a very, very good job of making sure these icons are completely 100% accurate and very crisp and very clean. And that goes the same with the other pauldron. It looks very clean over here in terms of the icon. However, if you're looking at all the rest of the details, you can see that this is rather messy over here, where you have these, I don't know if you call them paint chips or paint weathering or whatever it is. I'm definitely not a fan of this weird uneven look. There's a painting issue over here as well. And looking at the chest piece itself, there is some shading that's going on over here, as you can tell. And unfortunately, this shading is a little bit messy in my opinion. But again, this is fortunately or unfortunately pretty much par for JoyToy. And as I'm looking at the rest of this action figure, I'm noticing that instead of actually using lines, I believe that they're using some sort of airbrush kind of look here, because you do notice that there is a very light highlight over here that makes this a lightish gray kind of look. And you get that from the arms as well as the legs. So that's a very interesting effect. So looking at the back of this thing, there's a bunch of different items that are attached to this Space Marines belt. You have the holster and a bunch of empty, I guess, pouches. And the pouches, again, if you've seen the rest of my review videos, they are pretty much par with what JoyToy is going to give you. It's very rough highlights and very uneven. I'm not going to go too much into detail, but you can actually see the roughness that's going on over here. I'll briefly go into the articulation. JoyToy does a very good job with articulation. You have 360-degree rotation around the head, 360 around the shoulder, 90-degree around the elbow areas, 360-degree around the wrist area, and you can pop this wrist off so that you can exchange it for another wrist. The body you can rotate 360 degrees like you saw over there. So these things have a ton of mobility to them. And then with the legs, you can kick them out to roughly about 180-degree angle if you really wanted to, like this. Knees are about 90 degrees. And then you are able to move the foot around like this, and then the toes, you can also move a little bit for more stability during poses. All right, so let's kit out this Assault Intercessor with his weapons and backpack. The backpack is very easy to attach. You just insert the pegs into the holes, and then we are going to give this Assault Intercessor the chainsword, and these hands are very flexible, so you can put the chainsword inside like so. And then we're going to outfit him with the bolt pistol that goes in like so. All right, the Templar is ready for battle. So let's move on to the more interesting part of this review, which is this Black Templar steed. Okay, unwrapping the steed. Pull out. There we go. All right. This, my friends, is pretty cool looking. I'll have to say it models exactly the Outrider look that we get in the 40K miniatures. And JoyToy always does an excellent job of mimicking this. And as I'm looking at this, it's pretty awesome. But as usual, unfortunately, you have paint defects that are going on here. So let's just start off with the front end of the bike. So as you can see, you can actually move the wheels of the bike right here. The rear one moves fairly fluidly. The front one does not. I'm sure that we could probably just add a little bit grease or something like that in between to make it flow better. But one thing I'll have to say is, looking at the tires themselves, I actually like that there's a lot of character onto the tires. What I mean by that is there's mud that's literally slung all over these tires, which is really cool. I do like this and the scattered effect, because this is exactly how mud would look like on a real bike. And that goes the same for the rear. So looking at the front of the bike, you get some very, very light highlights that are going on as well. I think that these highlights are airbrushed on, much like how the Assault Intercessor looks. And then let's look at the storm bolters over here. You do see some issues where the silver did not cover the black that's over here. And then you actually do get some rough highlights that are going on top of the bolter, which I find a little bit strange. That I wish that JoyToy would actually translate these highlights onto the rest of the panels of the bike, but it looks like it's just isolated to the storm bolters themselves. And then I'm not too sure if this is some sort of defect or some sort of oversight or issue, but it's kind of weird in my opinion that you have a gray area or grayish silver area and a black area over here. I don't know if they forgot to paint this panel or it's something that's purposely done, but I don't know. In my opinion, I would appreciate it if this thing would actually be a little bit more uniform. And then let's look at the other details. For the lights themselves underneath here, I wish that there was a undercoat of silver and a light coat of red so it can give more like of a lens color. And then let's take a look at the handlebars. So the handlebars, in my opinion, are a complete mess. The painting is really rough in terms of what you see over here. So the red is supposed to go all the way out here, and it just looks very uneven in my opinion. There's some paint splotches over here, and unfortunately for the other handlebar, the right side, it's more or less the same. It's pretty cool that you are able to rotate the handlebars. Unfortunately, it does not rotate the wheels in front, so I'm rotating it right now. The wheels do not move. It's in a fixed position. Find it a little bit disappointing that this is supposed to be a viewfinder and it's just completely black. Over here, the different buttons and panels are very crudely painted. And then moving on, the seat, it looks okay. There's one thing I do like about the exhaust. So back here, you get this kind of burned in look over here. So you got the clean part where it's not exposed to a lot of the smoke. And over here, it's obviously going to be a lot more smoky because the exhaust is over here. So naturally, you're going to get exhaust onto the parts over here, and it's going to darken it. So JoyToy did a good job of that. The footrests, you are able to move back and forth, as you can see over here. Same thing with this side, and it's got that nice silverish dry brush that's going on. And there you go. You have the Rough Rider. So that's it for the review, folks. Let me wrap this up with my final thoughts. All right, folks, I really hope that you enjoyed this review as usual. And this was pretty exciting for me because, again, like I said, I really like these different mechanical units that are being released by JoyToy, because no other manufacturer right now is making anything remotely this awesome, in my opinion. Bandai is only working on infantry figures right now. Same with McFarlane. They're only doing infantry figures. JoyToy was the only one to branch out of these infantry units and actually make dreadnoughts, Redemptor dreadnoughts, war suits, and now this Outrider. So in terms of the combat bike, there are obviously some painting issues, and we have come to expect those painting issues from JoyToy. There's really nothing that we can do about it. But in terms of the accuracy, in terms of the coolness behind it, I really like this bike, despite all these stupid painting issues that are going on with it. Those painting issues are definitely something that I am willing to overlook because of how cool looking this thing is. Look at this. It is a fantastic action figure, as you can see, and fully functional. I really like it how true to form these action figures are to the Warhammer miniatures. They have copied this to the exact detail, and it's completely exhaustive and completely awesome. Yes, there are issues in which I think that the bike should have a display over here where the handlebar is. I do think that this weird painting issue where there's a panel that is lighter than the other, that is a problem. But again, in terms of accuracy and in terms of scope, this is really cool. I'm interested to hear what your personal opinions are of this bike, whether you're actually going to be getting it or not based on this review. And speaking of the review, I hope you enjoy it because there's going to be much more to come. JoyToy has definitely released the floodgates on all the different 40K action figures that are coming out. So look for those reviews in the future. So this is Spruce and Studs, and as usual, I'll see you all in the next one.